So okay guys, it seems that they just revealed the Riven 1 hour prior, like I did not expect that. So let's watch it together. Let's see. Still no audio, which is interesting. So maybe more cards from Riven rather than actually Riven. Blade of the Exile, 3 mana slow, Noxus, grant an ally +2/+0, overwhelm and quick attack. Well, that's kinda interesting. A pretty huge buff to an ally. Like, it is slow, overwhelm and quick attack. Like, these could be pretty great with this in, for example. Like, overwhelm and quick attack. Basically, you won't even need the barrier, really. Like, barrier is an additional defense. Like, wow, this is insane with Lee Sin. Because if they want to remove him with a spell, then you play another spell to barrier him, basically. It is true that with this you can't anymore go into Targon, so you don't have access to Bastion, but you still have all the protection given from Ionia, basically Deny and Notify. We live? Yeah, we are live, Machete. Is everything working correctly? The audio, etc. So like yeah, we were reviewing these cards, which have been released. Yes, looks good, fine. So yeah, like they revealed these 1 hour before usual. So like I was taken off guard and I was starting reviewing them. But yeah, like this card seems pretty interesting. I was by the way, you know what? Let's take a look at all the cards and then I'm gonna talk about them. Then we see Noxus again, 1 mana, 1/2, Blade Squire, Last Breath, Reforge. So a new keyword. Let's see what this keyword does. Reforge. Create a random blade fragment still needed to restore the blade. Once you've cast all 3, create Blade of the Exile. So that's a pretty, like, very specific archetype, very specific keyword. And I don't really know if I like the direction they are going, Riot, with all those keywords. Like, you know, Augment is pretty specific, as well as Reforge. But let's move on. Like, I like the fact that they are going so, like, they feel so free about keywords, etc. So this is a very huge design point in, like, being able to be free, you know, in what you want to design. So that's also an aspect. 2 mana, 3/1, when I'm summoned, Reforge. Okay, so, move, like, even more, like, a support to this archetype. So of course if you want a Reforge deck, then you want those to be in. 2 mana burst, give an ally +2/+0 this round, Reforge. Okay, that's interesting. Then yeah, let's take a look at all of them. Glinting Blade Fragment, 1 mana burst, give an ally +2/+0 this round. Can't be cast in combat or in response to a spell. But this is not collectible. Like, all before where, this is not collectible. So let's see what does create the Glinting Blade Frag. I don't know, so many keywords could be overwhelming for new players. Yeah, that's also a problem that they could incur into if they want to go for this design, basically. 1 mana burst, give an ally quick attack this round, can be cast in combat or in response to a spell. Okay. So like all those fragments giving either attack or quick attack, probably the last one would be overwhelm indeed. Heavy Blade Fragment, give an ally overwhelm this round, can be cast in combat or in response to a spell. So now let's see what does give these. And yeah, and then yeah, Blade of Exile, which basically gives all of them. So like, I wonder... Ah, now I get it. All those Reforge create a random Blade Fragment, still needed to restore the blade. So those fragments, weapon hilt, then what is it? Glinting Blade Fragment and the heavy key. No, what are those? Glinting, what is it? Glinting Blade Fragment, Keen Blade Fragment, and Heavy Blade Fragment. They are burst, and if you collect all the 3 of them, then they basically become the Blade of the Exile, which is not main deckable. So that's interesting. Like, I wonder if this is really an upgrade to those other 3. Because they are burst, at least. This is Grant, which is of course much more powerful. But this is low. So like you have to play all those Reforge to get... basically you have to play 3 Reforge and you get basically the Blade of the Exile. So like, is it worth it? It seems like... so let's take a closer look to them. So yeah, like we see here on Shiraza, like, you know, the possibilities with this card. Like, so this seems okay. Like, it is Last Breath, and the body is not really all that convincing. Like, it is not really all that aggressive. Kinda hard to die. Most of the times your opponent can really basically... Felix Phoenix, I Bomber just arrived. How many cards did you already review? Basically every one of them, but I just took a look at them. Now we're going to review them more in depth. So like, Blade Squire, like, if you are new to this is the new Reforged mechanics, by the way. They create a Blade Fragment, which is a burst spell which either gives +2/+0 this round, or Quick Attack or Overwhelm at 1 mana burst, but they can't be, like gems basically, they can't be cast on combat or in response to spells. And if you have all 3 of them, the fragments, then you get the Blade of the Exile, which is a 3 mana slow, grant +2/+0, Overwhelm, and Quick Attack. So like, of course you want to cast the Blade of Exile into something which has a Riven plus Lee Sin. Yeah, like Lee Sin, pretty strong. Or even like, even just in Noxus, if you think about Swain, like all cards which have a beneficial effect with attack. So like, for example, Lee Sin, of course, because he has an ability which scales with his attack, and in particular it doubles basically the attack, even more if you give him Overwhelm. So of course this is a pretty great target already. But again, as I said before, if you want to go into Noxus for the Blade of the Exile, then you lose the Targon, you know, Bastion and all that it is strong for, you know, also all the gems, so it will become harder to basically level up Lee Sin, as well as drawing cards into your combo, you know. So like, it could work, but it is a completely new archetype basically, because the supporting region for that particular strategy, the Lee Sin Targon basically, Targon being the support region, it's pretty important in that deck. So like, it could work, a Lee Sin Blade of Exile, but we have to see much more cards to guess if that is the proper way to go. Like, for example, already Lee Sin could be into Noxus because of Might, which is a 3 mana burst, give +3/+0 and Overwhelm. And like, the combo would have been even faster into Noxus. So like, going into Targon is just because of Pale Cascade, Guiding Touch, and Bastion, basically. Because they are, and gems, sorry, and gems most importantly. Because Targon gives you a lot of cheap spells to cast, which is pretty great to level up Lee Sin. Like, if you use the Blade Fragments instead of the Blade of the Exile, really, then those are, if you think about it, pretty cheap spells anyway. So like, this could work. And probably they are better spells rather than gems. Like, it is debatable, but most of the times giving +2 attack, or Quick Attack, or Overwhelm, in particular Quick Attack, is much more threatening. Apprehend for Mega Finish, yeah, exactly. But then you have to have also Darius. So like, that is pretty much on the meme territory. And I mean, no, you can. What is Apprehend? It is stun, and if you have Darius, then rally, right? So yeah, then you need a Darius for the rally. So yeah, but yeah, as I was saying, Blade Squire, like the Last Breath Reforge, it is a 1/2. Like, most of the times your opponent could just basically ignore the Blade Squire, you know? No, my 5 EQ deck is already dead. No, man, don't be so harsh with yourself. Like, you know, like, this can be always ignored, and it doesn't really block all that well. Like, this should die on the block. I mean, it is okay if you are trading a 2/1, but even just a 3/2, this doesn't really trade all that well into. Like, you just want this to die for the Reforge, but it is a pretty weak body. Like, 1 mana units should be all 2/1s, really. Even more if you want them to die to Last Breath. Like, you don't really care if this gets pinged, you know? Like, you want this to die anyway because you want the Reforge. So, like, yeah, not a big fan of this card. Like, they could have Probably making it a 2-2 into Noxus, that would have been pretty dangerous. But at least a 2-1. Like, I don't know about this card. Probably would be needed in a Reforge archetype, but that's it, really. And the same goes for these. Like, 2 mana, 3-1. This seems a bit, like, a lot to me, like the Mountain Goat. Like, this could be an okay card in the right deck, basically the Reforge. We have to see Riven, what she does. But yeah, like, I guess that this card will not even be run in a... was Riven revealed today as well? No, it was not revealed. Probably tomorrow. And, like, you know, even in the archetype of Riven, which probably will synergize with Reforge, this could be cutted. Just because the 1 health at 2 mana, or even like 3, even worse, like, it is so pingable, so weak to removal. Like, I don't know why they went for these, really. So, not a big fan of this card either. But, like, it's too early to comment on them, because we have to see what Riven does. Instead, this is a burst into Noxus. Give an ally +2/+0 this round, and Reforge. Like, this, if you think about it, it is 2 spells into 1. So, like, it is not so unthinkable of Lee Sin into Noxus, you know? Like, we have already, like, this is a great spell to basically draw spells. You don't really draw them from the deck, like Guiding Touch or Pale Cascade in Targon, but you create it in end. So, like, this, also this creation, you know? Like, this could also work with Victor. Like this could be actually pretty sick, because all those Reforge, creating very cheap cards into Victor, we already, like I already did, we have already a Victor burn. So, like, Victor wants already to go into Noxus for the burn. So, like, maybe you could also slap a bit of Reforge in there to level up Victor. That could be pretty sick. Like, I love the fact that the Riot never basically never basically, how can I say it, they always make keywords interact pretty well with each other. Like, you can be so, like, free in terms of, like, deck building and etc. Like, you have to figure out those stuff out. Like, every archetype is not completely blocked in a certain, like, idea. Of course, when we are talking about meta, then only certain strategies are the best of the best at that current moment. But, like, if we are not talking about meta, like, a lot of ideas are really complementing each other pretty well. Then if you want to be competitive, then that's another complete story. But, for example, now that we don't know what it is meta, like, I see a lot of possibilities for this already. Like, Reforge, create cards, so Victor, attack-based buffs, so Lee Sin, as well as, you know, lots of spells created, so, again, as well Lee Sin, but could even work, like, with the Nexus Strikes abilities, like, what is it? Not really Ezreal, because Ezreal has already Evasion, which is elusive, but, for example, Swain, etc, etc. And then, yeah, looking at the fragments, as I said, probably better in most of the cases than a gem. Like, gem is Grant, but, for example, gaining quick attack, imagine quick attack at 1 burst into a challenger. Like, we have already seen some challengers from Noxus, like the 4 mana 3/3 with challenger, and she also gets quick attack the turn she's summoned, but with this you could re-give the quick attack to her. Like, yeah, quick attack is pretty sick with challenger. Overwhelm could be like a very, very cheap activator for Lee Sin, but other than that, not really all that great. And yeah, Blade of the Exile, it's pretty strange. Like, it is a very sick buff, but, like, it is 3 mana. Most of the times this is, like, buffing a unit means that you have to protect that unit. And again, if you're not into Targon with Bastion, or if you're not into Ionia with the Nice and etc., like, I don't know. Like, it is usually not a good idea to commit all your resources into one unit, which is what this card is basically doing. So like I don't know how will Blade of the Exile perform, because it really needs a lot of preparation to get the Blade of the Exile. You have to cast or gain basically 3 Reforge, and then after all that effort, you have to cast Blade of the Exile onto a unit which you played, and then it just dies to Vengeance, you know, or whatever removal really. So like I'm wondering about this archetype, because if this becomes meta, then there is a clear counter to that strategy, which is the single target removal. And then I don't know how much this archetype will perform against those archetypes. And again, if we see that if this archetype is good enough, then we see single target removal, then you need to go into a region which has protection to those single target removals. And so I don't know if that archetype will be already into regions which have protection to spells, or you know, into like spell shield or denies, etc. And yeah, like this could be interesting. Seeing Lee Sin with lots of high attack unit, granting overwhelm and quick attack to both Lee Sin or whatever unit. Like that's interesting. That's pretty interesting. So yeah, let me just stop the record. If you're watching this video on YouTube, then we're going to continue the live, and that's it for this video.